My guest is Mary Teichert, the president of Teichert Inc., and also a senior fellow with the American Leadership Forum. Also sits on the California State's Contractors License Board. Mary, thank you for making time to have a moment with me today and being the ambassador for your industry for this meeting today.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm honored.
So, Mary, you're the president of Teichert Inc. Teichert is one of the oldest and most prominent construction companies that's been around for multi-generations. What are the attributes of Teichert that made it not only survive, but thrive through multi-generations?
So Teichert is an infrastructure contractor at this point. We started out in 1887 with my great-great-grandfather, who was a foreman for the guy who invented expansion joints. So he knew how to lay sidewalks. Back in those days, they called it artificial stone. And when they first built the California State Capitol, he hung out his own shingle and started his business. So it's been a while, and we've, I think over the years, basically been successful by providing the infrastructure the state needs. So responding to whatever's going on in California at the time. I think there was a lot of market awareness going from everything from the state capitol thing is going to generate some work. His son, Adolph Jr., came into the business in the early 1900s, and we actually had California Highway Contract Number 2 back in the days before Caltrans. It was Caltrans's predecessor organization. But apparently the state thought all the infrastructure we would need for these self-driving cars, I guess back in those days it was horseless carriages, all we were going to need was to connect all the county seats. And so Teichert did one of the first road contracts. And then the state was flooding a lot, so we started building levees in the 1930s. And when we went to war in the 40s, Teichert built airfields. And then the GI started getting home from war, and we started building subdivision infrastructure. So really, I think that's at the essence of it is we've always been responsive to the infrastructure the state needs. So there's a big market piece about that. We have been here a while. We have state contractors license number 8, which is the oldest active license in California. So part of our job is not to mess that up. It's been a little while. But I'd say this, the essential reason we've been here so long is that great people want to work here. So that's a balance of a lot of things. It's like having interesting, constructive work to do and a respectful and productive work environment, all the stuff that Gallup talks about with having the right tools for the job and caring about the people you work with. Having a great safety culture has been important to us. My grandfather, Henry Teichert, was our president in, I guess, the 50s through the early 70s. And he started our safety program in 1959, which was about 11 years before OSHA was founded. So part of caring about people is feeling like they feel like they're going to go home safely to their families every day, and that the company cares about their family too. You know, whenever people ask me about Teichert being a family business, I point out it's a lot of people's family business. So I think really having great people want to work here and doing all the collection of things it takes to make them want to do that, and being responsive to whatever it is that the state's needing for infrastructure, because it's one of those things you have always with you. There's no way to get around the need of some kind of infrastructure. We started a gas and utility group about 6 years ago, recognizing that that's the next stage of how the state is going is energy. And so, like, once again, what's the infrastructure that's needed? What can we do about that? It's pretty neat. So that's, I would say those are my basic ideas on why we've been here so long, not having been here for all of it. I've only been here 20 of the 135 years, but it's been a good ride.
Excellent. So Mary, this infrastructure, heavy civil construction industry is considered traditional, conservative, and methodical. So how will Teichert and others really in this infrastructure industry survive this rapid pace of technological advancements and disruption, frankly, that is happening, that's touching just about every industry?
So Teichert's built roads for a long time, and thinking about what is the technology disruption that goes with roads, it's an interesting question, because there's a basic piece of our job that has to do with geology and physics. You know, you have materials and you put them on the ground and people drive on it. There's a lot that's actually not really about technology. It's geology and physics, and it affects our industry. You know, we certainly have more and more high-tech equipment. GPS was a game changer for a lot of different dimensions of how we do what we do. But as far as what we do, there's a lot that's more similar than different about people driving on roads. So trying to keep track of whether, you know, smart transportation is going to make any changes other than the kind of wires that are in the ground, which honestly doesn't make too much difference to the person placing them. Or if people are driving different places, is that anything different than additional roads? So we keep keeping track of it, but so far it's had more to do with how we do things than what we do, because what we do seems to still be needed in terms of getting people from one place to another. How we do it certainly evolves with things like the different kinds of takeoff technology, blue beam technology, how we read and communicate plans. I think as-built and some of the ways that we understand what's in the ground are going to really evolve. So that's really, that's one place where I think we have some opportunity, is for folks to continue understanding what's in the ground. The more utility work we do, the more we realize that over the last 100 years, people have put a lot of pipes in the ground and not everyone knows where they all are. So that's a thing. Yeah.
Excellent. So Mary, as a female company president of a male-dominated industry, what advice will you give to women who want to follow your footsteps, and also for men, frankly, who may feel threatened by females competing with them in what historically has been their domain?
Well, I think one of the main things I would think for any business leader is we all want to have the very best people working here, and we want to have the best access to talent. And so I think having more women in the business just means that you actually have more good people to choose from. I sometimes quote Warren Buffett, who said that part of the reason for his success is he only had to compete with half the population. And thinking that part of what we're trying to do is get the whole population of people who are capable, talented, and interested in our kind of work to want to work in this industry. And there's a lot of women in that group. You know, women haven't always thought of construction, or in our case, we also have an extensive mining operation and materials group, but people haven't always thought of those as good women operations for women. But what that means is that we're not getting access to all the best talent. So we have some incredibly talented, fabulous men that work here, and some really wonderful women, but not very many of them. And so thinking that how can we get everybody that has a good mind for engineering and geology and likes to be outside, whatever their gender, their demographics, their background, wherever they come from, if they're the best at those things, that's who we want. And so trying to figure out how to make it a hospitable environment for women is a big task. And really for all kinds of underrepresented groups, because there's some talented people that aren't thinking of us as a good place to work. And we need to change that because we need the best talent. So as far as, you know, being a woman in this space, it's definitely true that there's not that many of them. I think in operations or P&L type roles in construction, it's in the range of between 1% and 3%, depending on what you read. Overall in the business, it's about 6%, but it's not very big. Like there's nowhere close to half. You know, at Teichert, we have about 35% women, but a lot of them are in back office functions. So if you look at P&L type jobs, we are more in the 3% range. So there's not that many of them in here. So I think part of the main challenge is just that you don't see too many people that look like you. So it has to be right now, unfortunately, the women that are interested in this business have to be kind of okay with that, because it's not the sort of place where you would come to work and look around and see other women. Most of the time, that's not how it is. And so, but if you're okay with that, there's amazing men in this business, you know, so many wonderful allies that I've had in the course of my career that are interested in my success and, you know, want to have talented people running businesses, which goes back to the main point of why you would do any of these things.
Fantastic. So Mary, Teichert as a company, and you in particular, have been so vested in partnering, and you've been a champion and a proponent of partnering with clients, with industries, with subcontractors, and with agencies that you work with. Why such an investment? Why such an investment in partnering versus the old traditional way or method, if you will, of filing claims, fighting, and maybe getting your money at the end of the job, if you do?
At Teichert, I'd say the system works well for us. So partnering fits our culture, and it fits the style of work we do and the kinds of project managers that we have. And that's a system that works for us. And I would say there's different kinds of companies with different kinds of cultures and systems. And some people have personnel that's super talented at claims, you know, and can really identify them and figure them out, and they make money that way. So at Teichert, we do work that way. We've gone through and developed partnership relationships with our home builder customers and with our private customers over the decades, which work well for us. And so having that kind of culture and that kind of talent on board where folks develop relationships fits pretty well with a partnering type orientation. Because in both cases, what we have found for our own way of doing business is that working together on a common outcome is more efficient and saves money, results in a better product. And when there's problems and hiccups that come up in all construction work, there's a way to work through it constructively. So that's what we found. And again, there's other systems that work okay for other contractors. The whole thing just has to work together. You have to have people that are good at that type of work and a customer base that is effective with and a way that makes money. And for us, partnering is really in our DNA because we have those roots in private business and they apply really nicely to public agencies. And honestly, we found the similar things to be true, which is that it's not about giving you the work, but it is about making the project go smoothly and come out with the outcomes that is what we're all hoping for. So in our case, like here's a good outcome for the traveling public, or here's the project that we all want to get done with no injuries and on time. We all have common goals with that type of stuff. And we could spend all our money on lawyers, or we could not do that, so it's not like the system works for us pretty well. So partnering's been a real natural fit for us.
Great. Thank you, Mary. So what's the future holds for Teichert? Where is Teichert heading? What's the horizon look like for the company?
Well, we anticipate continuing to build infrastructure and in California as well as potentially other states. We have a good presence in Western Nevada, and so trying to look at how other states do business is good as well. But essentially, we love building infrastructure, and we find that the kinds of skill sets you need for what we do are transferable to a lot of other kinds of things. So I mentioned earlier that we built an energy and utilities group, probably started it about 5 or 6 years ago. But that does gas infrastructure, and it needs trenching and shoring and traffic control and safety and a lot of the kinds of topics that we already do. And it has a different set of customers and some new things we've learned about different kinds of training and quality assurance. So we add on to our skill set through doing that, but also it takes some of our core skills as well. So I guess we want to keep on growing our core and saying, here's the core things we like to do. We love to do work outside. We like to build things that people use every day. It's been quite a blessing being an essential workforce over the last year or so. But honestly, the work we build is essential for the traveling public and people that live here. And so we want to keep doing that. And what it looks like might keep changing. And that'll be just fine.
Mary, I served with you on a number of committees, different boards. We've been together in this industry for a long time. So what is going to be your legacy, Mary Teichert?
Well, I'm hoping that it's going to continue being a larger footprint of outstanding people doing good infrastructure projects. So that is where we're going. We're continuing to do it. I think a nice thing about defining our mission and purpose is that it gives us something to compare to. So people can come in periodically and say, your assets could be used in this way, or here's another line of business you might consider. And if it's not infrastructure, it's easy to sort of steer away from it and say, well, that certainly could be interesting, but that's not what we do. And by the same token, it leaves the field pretty broadly open for what could happen next. We talked earlier about technology. So depending on what happens, if we do end up with self-driving cars that need some kind of, different sort of infrastructure, have other kinds of roads or, whatever the signaling systems are, like who knows what will change. But part of our job is going to be to keep paying attention to that and just find out what is the infrastructure that's needed and what skill sets can we bring to bear that we already have and what's our chance to learn and grow something new. So I'd say a good learning organization. We have these core values of building trust and tradition, and we can keep doing that in infrastructure work going forward. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Great. Mary, again, thank you for making time today to be the ambassador for the construction industry, especially the infrastructure, and for spending a moment with Sam and with GLA. We wish you all the best, and we definitely need a lot more Mary Teicherts in our industry as well.
Well, thank you, Sam. I appreciate the time.